everybody, and welcome to the next episode of Bourbon with the Boss. My name is Mike Durante with Thai National. We are a national installation and support company for all technologies. I'm here today. Today's boss is Jason with Varex Solutions, founder and CEO. Cheers.
Cheers.
Welcome to the next episode of Bourbon with the Boss. Jason, let's start it off. I'll let you introduce yourself a little bit and kind of what Varex does.
Yeah, so my name is Jason Rowland, and I've been in the IT industry since 1999. I've been an IT service management specialist since 2010. And then I founded Varex Solutions June 24th of 2025. And we've actually, our specialty and our focus is IT service management platforms, their implementation, their optimization, and then helping organizations use them to discover savings that they wouldn't otherwise be able to find and identify. I could tell you that for my last two clients, I've been able to uncover respectively $25 million in annual savings for one company and $100 million in annual savings for another company through a series of strategic initiatives that result in prescriptive results.
Very nice. It's amazing how much money's left on the table when it comes to IT assets, as well as everything down from laptops and phones even, right?
Everything from both the virtual and the physical side, right? The physical side, it's easy to say, hey, you're leaving this much money on the table because you've got this much, this many laptops that are sitting in desks, that are sitting in closets somewhere that are still within their useful life, right? But at the same time, there's also when companies are under or over on their licensing profiles for software, right? If you're 15% under or over on your licensing profile, for any of your standard licensed software applications, for every 10,000 employees you have, that's $1 million that you're just leaking out the door.
Describe to me under. So, because obviously we know over, right? You have licenses you're not using, you're not doing anything with. What's under mean?
Under means that so under, from our perspective, under means that you have licenses that you're not using, right?
Okay.
So for example, you're underutilizing your entire license structure. So let's say, for example, you've got 100,000 licenses, but if you're 15% under, then that means you've only got 85,000 people using those licenses, right? Now, if you're over, that means you're actually using more seats than you have license for. The company is going to find you. They're going to find those used seats, those unlicensed users in your yearly audit,
right? And
then you're going to get a bill that you didn't budget for.
Gotcha. And
right.
Not just a bill for the software, they fine you too as well?
There can be additional fees and fines depending on the contract structure.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay. So when you're talking 10,000 employees, that's big money.
And that's per 10,000 employees. My last two clients that I'm talking about had 25,000 and 100,000 employees respectively.
Oh wow.
That we were able to help them identify their license utilization accuracy, and then use that accuracy and tune those numbers to be able to bring in, a better return for them and help them restructure that spend.
Excellent. Well, before we delve too deep into it,
sure.
What got you into it? What got you into this business?
So there's so many disciplines in IT, right?
Yeah.
You could be a coder. You could be, you could go lay wire. You could go, fix hardware. In 2010, I was working with a company called CareTech Solutions, and I was helping their remedy team. I functioned as what's known as the remedy liaison, right? And so we had 100 service desk members, and those service desk members regularly had problems with the way the remedy worked, right? They didn't like how this was set up. They didn't like how that was set up, and they complained about it all the time. I went through and actually structured that feedback into a memo, and then took that memo to the remedy team and said, hey, these are the problems the team has, right? And then took the feedback from the remedy team, structured that into a memo that then went out to the rest of the team.
Very nice.
Right, and I said first memo, but agenda. So I structured the feedback into an agenda and structured the responses into a memo that went out to the team. Everything from how spell check was supposed to work to how the categories were situated. And I just fell in love with the concept of IT service management, right? Yeah. Everything runs through IT service management. If you make a call to your service desk because you're having a problem with your technology, right? That incident is going to go into the IT service management platform.
Right.
if a coder wants to make a change to their application,
Right.
they've got to submit a change request through the CAB platform, through their IT service management platform, whether it's ServiceNow or Jira or Remedy or Halo or any of those.
Exactly.
You know, and I fell in love with this method of integrated workflows that moves technology forward.
Oh, so how'd that bring you into looking at kind of the looking at assets and saving money in that aspect?
So a big part of IT service management is the CMDB and asset management structure, right? Your configuration management database, which is your database of all of your physical and virtual assets within an organization's enterprise.
Right. You'll be surprised how many large companies still use spreadsheets just for that.
Oh yeah, Excel is still, Excel and Access databases are not going away anytime soon.
Yeah, that's
But I hope to help empower organizations to move away from those technologies. Excel is still a great technology. Access still has its place somewhere, I'm sure. But really to mature their overall profile and their position so that they can have more visibility to the physical and virtual infrastructure that they have on site.
Gotcha. So when you walked in, or when you're walking into your clients, when you walk in, you say, "Okay, I can help you recover some money or make sure that you're working as efficiently as possible." Where do you start? How do you start?
You just try to understand how happy are they with their current situation,
Right.
right? How happy are they with their current level of visibility to their current situation?
Now, in that scenario, I don't mean to interrupt, but in that scenario, are you talking to the heads of IT, or are you talking to C-level at that point, or both?
So generally speaking, I'm talking to the heads of IT, and then if I can get the heads of IT on board, then they will bring the C-levels in when it's time.
Gotcha.
Right. And I'm happy to talk to the CTO, the CIO, the CISO.
Right.
All the way up to the CEO, if that's what's required, to help them understand how I can empower their organization to be able to improve their IT financial position.
Well, that's a powerful question. If you go in and you say, I bet you talk to especially C-level, how many assets do you have deployed?
Right.
And how many you have not being used right now that you can redeploy?
Yeah. Like what is your current redeployment percentage? Right.
That's a great number to have. I bet you a lot of people don't have it.
They don't have it. They don't know it. And I'm using industry standard data, right? Data from Deloitte, data from Gartner's, right? For example, Intel and Parango just did a collaborative study that shows that for every asset that you actually lose, right? You're not just losing the $1,500 that the laptop costs.
Right.
You're losing assets. You're losing licenses. You're losing work that was on the laptop, and you're increasing your security risk to a total bill of $49,000 per lost asset.
Wow, that's crazy.
That is absolutely insane when you consider that just the hardware alone, right? For every 10,000 employees you have, okay, based on the current level of attrition, right? The current standard redeployment or recovery redeployment process, organizations are losing roughly $850,000 per 10,000 employees just in the hardware. That's before you consider the increased security risk and everything else.
Right. Yeah, I remember. What's it called? There was a large dental insurance company. I'm not going to say the name.
I know which one you're talking about.
I'm not going to say the name, but they had, what is it? I think it was one of their executives had their laptop stolen, and just from that, it was millions. I think it cost them. So
and situations like that, they're like seatbelts, right? They're not really comfortable to get into, and everybody wants to put them on after the accident's already started.
Right.
But then it's too late.
Well, you see a lot of that when it comes to IT budgets, actually. So the IT budget, and especially cybersecurity budgets, open up dramatically when there's even a thought of a breach.
Yes.
Instead of trying to get in front of it sometimes. So when you're talking to people and you're starting with a new client or somebody who has a potential of it, why are they coming to you? Are they coming to you and they saying, you know what, I don't know where this is and I need your help with it? Or are they coming to you and saying like, hey, I want to open my budget up. What's a way to do it? What What do you normally see when people start off?
So clients come to us in two ways, right? One, because they're not happy with their current ITSM platform configuration, right? They realize that they don't have the level of visibility or function that they need. And so when my SDRs reach out to them and just say, hey, how happy are you with your current ITSM configuration? Whether it's Jira, ServiceNow, Service Engine, or rather Manage Engine, whatever they're currently using, we just say, hey, how happy are you with it? And if you say, oh, we're really not happy with the way it's configured right now, right? We offer to come in, take a look, do a free assessment, just to understand what your current situation looks like, right? And then through that, we can then offer suggestions on what we can do to make improvements, right?
Yeah, because you don't just do the asset stuff. You actually go the whole process, right?
We don't just focus on assets. We focus on the entire process, all the way from, for example, governance, right? And in this case, asset governance, software governance, process governance, all the way to implementation,
right,
through the entire structure. And so when we reach out to them, we find they're really not happy with the way that their configuration is set up. It's really not working for them. And that's because not any particular firm, but I'm going to say there's an unfortunately large segment of the ITSM implementation firms that will come in, they'll implement your software, they'll fulfill the conditions of the MSA and the SOW, and then they're gone. Laughing all the way to the bank, right? I can't even tell you how uncomfortable the thought makes me that happens, right? Because anytime that I work with a client, I don't leave until it's done right.
Right.
And
then do you have a follow up with them too, or when it comes to, because obviously ITSM, a big piece of it is that reporting feature, right? Being able to have good visuals into what's going out in the field, as well as how do we come in and budget ourselves for the next year. So where do you guys fall in when it comes to that?
So when it comes to the follow-up structure, right, we actually do two different things. First off, you can't shoot an unloaded gun, right? So you're not going to be able to generate the data reports that you want until you get data feed already coming through, right? And so once it's implemented, and then after the implementation is done and we're gone, that's when the reporting data starts to come through, okay?
Yeah.
We don't leave yet, right? We actually do what's called hypercare, right? And in the hypercare phase, that is when we develop the reporting, the dashboarding, the visibility functions. And then on top of that, we also assign you a project manager, and that project manager does a weekly follow-up to make sure to see if there's anything else that you need us to come and do as a part of the engagement that we've already done. That's not a separate charge or a separate SOW.
Right, excellent. Because there's a lot of things that people forget about when they do these implementations. They, like you said, they have this scope of work. It's great, but everyone forgets once the person leaves, it helps you build it. All right, now what?
Yeah.
Now I got to get onto a support plan, or now I need to bring them back in to do X, Y, Z.
Yeah,
that's excellent. So for people, let's say people start out. We've got people watch this now that are directors of IT, large companies, and what do you suggest, without going and calling in saying, hey, let's do all of this big stuff.
Sure.
Where do you think they should start to say, am I looking at the right things? Right?
Sure.
And obviously, that's going to be different for every business, but how do they know if they're not looking at the right things? What can they look at? What can they determine that?
So one of the things that we have at Varex Solutions is a proprietary Varex Solutions ITSM maturity assessment, right? And so what that does is, it is a paid service offering, right? And the maturity assessment actually makes it so that you have visibility into what you need to be looking at when it comes to increasing your overall ITSM maturity. The cool part about the ITSM maturity assessment is that it's modularized, right? And so, for example, enterprise service management is spread across 50 or so different practice areas, right? Everything from hardware asset management, software management, application management, service desk management, excuse me, service delivery management as an example. And so we can actually assess any combination or any individual practice area independently of the others, right?
Gotcha. Okay.
And so we can come in and say, okay, we'll actually do a free ITSM maturity assessment on any one practice area.
Oh, very nice.
And so that's going to be between 200 and 400 question interview, right? That scales and structures across the CMMI, or Capability Maturity Model Index methodology. And what that does is that shows that IT director, that CEO, hey, this is the value that we can provide, and this is what you're currently missing out on within, let's say, your change management structure, for example. Right. And can
you give me a use case for the change management real quick? So so if they're missing something out of the change management structure, when do you come in and say there's a problem? Like, so, I mean, I don't mean to put you on the spot here.
Yeah, no, please.
But when people say like there's different areas, change management is a big piece of ITSM, right?
It's a huge piece.
So when you say you're missing a piece in your change management, have you seen something missing before that really calls out like, hey?
Yeah, let me give you an example, right? So for change management, you're going to have what's referred to as your CAB, right? Yeah. Your change advisory board, right? And that change advisory board should have a documented agenda, right? If you don't have a documented agenda so that any CAB manager can come in and run the CAB the same way, you have inconsistencies in your CAB structure, right?
Right.
Those inconsistencies can allow risks to slip through and can allow changes to go into production that shouldn't have been able to go into production because one CAB manager was doing things differently than another. And let me give you an example, right? For example, if one CAB manager does active approvals and the other one does passive approvals, right? And what that means is that with a passive approval, the CAB manager will reach out to, they'll call on whoever's representing the changes and say, hey, Billy, we're group, today we're representing change ABC 123. Billy's going to represent this change. Billy, go ahead and speak on the change. Billy speaks on the change. After Billy's done, then the CAB manager says, all right, any questions, comments, concerns? And then no response. Okay, it's approved. And then move on, right?
Right.
There's no active endorsement of that change, right? Without active endorsement, you don't have active accountability. Right. Without active accountability, there's no reason for Billy, when he made the change, to make sure that all of his testing was complete, to make sure that all of his stages of service development lifecycle were complete.
Yeah.
So when a different CAB manager comes on and says, hey, now who's sponsoring this change? And they require 3 sponsors to sponsor the change, right? Now we have active accountability, right?
Gotcha.
And with active accountability comes reduced risk. And that is one of 200 different factors that we check in to say, do you currently have active accountability and active approvals on your CAB process or passive approvals on your CAB process, which is just going to determine where they're at in their maturity. And then at the end of the maturity assessment, they actually get a roadmap of all of the identified improvements they can make.
Very nice.
And then that roadmap, again, we check in with them on a weekly basis to see where they're at on the roadmap, right? They get the entire thing packaged in a Microsoft Projects package.
Very nice.
That they can go through. It's the Gantt chart with swim lanes, milestones, and timelines.
Very cool. So a complete package all the way through to the end. So
it's a complete package.
Not just say, here's your score, now pay us to tell you how to get there.
Right. Because we also use industry standard language, right? A lot of the big 5 firms, they use what we refer to as sticky language, right? So without a Rosetta Stone, and that Rosetta Stone is a consultant from that firm at the cost of $1,000 an hour, you're not going to understand what the project plan even means when you get some of these assessments from some of the bigger firms, right?
That makes sense.
We use industry standard language all the way across, and if you don't understand what something means, for example, if it says, optimize your, security profile for your, whatever index, et cetera, right?
Yeah.
And you go, I don't know what that means, right? In the weekly check-in with a project manager, you can ask them that question. They'll walk you step by step through what you need to do to achieve that accountability. And then it doesn't just check a box, right? It actually has a tangible output on the other side.
Right. Yeah. That makes sense. So you're creating some type of process or document, or something's changing in that process.
Correct. That is critical to your level of maturity, not just for maturity's sake, but for efficiency process sake.
Excellent. Now, in this scenario, are you able to give them something that they can even take back and use in their Salesforce to say, we have ITSM, let's say,
Right.
department, and it's rated here. Is there any type of rating or anything in the industry that calls out how mature a company is, or how, or kind of where they are? If a director of IT, for example, says, okay, I got all these different departments underneath me, I need to prove to my boss we're improving. How do I do that?
So there isn't currently a standardized structure because it is actually an unregulated industry, right? So for example, if we're talking security, right, you could say we're rated here on Zero Trust. We're rated here on NIST, right? Currently, there are a couple of industries, and organizations that have developed some level of standardization, but even that is not 100% accepted throughout, right?
Right.
So the best thing that you can do is when you pick an organization to do your maturity assessment, have that same organization redo the maturity assessment the following year, right?
Gotcha.
And that will show you a before and after. That'll show you effectively drive your timeline, right? And that line graph to show we were currently at a 1.8 as an organization. Now we're at a 2.6. We're headed to a 3.5, right?
Nice.
We have to achieve these things to get there.
Excellent. Excellent.
Yeah.
And good, because as I said, there's a lot of different avenues in this, right? And
there's so many avenues.
A lot of the larger companies that we work with, I know, are very split off between them. They all report up to the CIO, right?
Yes.
And each individual, whether they be the director of facilities and IT infrastructure, as opposed to the IT support structure, as opposed to the asset, the asset team. When you go and you say, I want to give you a module, I want to go through this module, where do you prefer to start? And when it comes to a company, is there one that really pops more, or that people are usually lacking in?
So ultimately, ITSM, right? IT service management, the core pillars of IT service management are incident, request, change, problem, and knowledge. Right. And so when you get beyond that, you get to what we refer to as ESM, or enterprise service management. That's when you get SPM, you get things in the PMO or project management office. You get your ITSM or not ITSM, ITAM, IT applications and IT asset management, right? ITOM, IT operations management, right? Those are different sectors, but all in the enterprise service management spectrum, right? I always recommend people start with ITSM. See where your ITSM maturity is, because that will drive the maturity for the rest of it as a foundational structure, right?
Gotcha.
You always want to lay the foundation, build the walls, then put the roof on.
Gotcha. That
right?
makes sense.
And ITSM is the foundation for all of this.
So your enterprise level, your enterprise management pieces are, once you get that foundation set, then you start looking at each one of those.
Correct. And that's why if somebody said, hey, I think I need a maturity assessment, can you come do a demo for us? Right? I would almost always start with incident management.
Incident management,
right?
Gotcha.
How well are your incidents being managed? How well are the incident workflows working for you? And how maturity is your overall incident process? Right? But then once that is done, the most heavy hitting components almost always in asset management, with your hardware asset management, your software asset management, and your application management. That's where you're going to get the most returns from. But the problem is that no matter how good your roof is, if the foundation isn't good, then the rest of it crumbles, right?
Right, because if you're saying, hey, I want to redeploy these assets, but I don't have a good change process, or I don't have a good, incident process.
For example, an organization right now wants to come in and do, they want us to come in and do service mapping, right? And I've had to explain to them, we're happy to come and do service mapping for you, but first, you have to have, you have to have SPM in, or not SPM in, you have to have application portfolio management in first, right? You have to understand what your application structure looks like. And you need discovery operating correctly first, right? Once you have discovery operating, and with discovery operating, you understand what your physical footprint looks like. And once you have application portfolio management up and running, then you understand what your virtual footprint looks like. Then you can take and then do service mapping, which shows you where the two kind of combine and get your synergistic outputs, right? That's when you can start to understand which physical infrastructure is hosting these virtual assets, right? Which physical infrastructure is currently single-threaded in the way that it's supporting some of these virtual assets, and where are my biggest points of risk, right?
And that's, I'll tell you, and that's a lot of things that sometimes don't get looked at until there's a problem already.
Usually that's the case. I find people are like physics. An object that's sitting still is going to stay still until it's acted upon, right?
Exactly.
And so when you have a major issue, right, like you accidentally, shut down a server, and only afterwards realize that you had something critical that was on that server, right? Then all of a sudden you start to say, oh, well, maybe we should get a better understanding of which physical components are supporting our virtual assets.
Well, that's a good thing for our IT folks to realize, like, if you don't have that already mapped out, or you're not looking at it, there could be a potential for problem there, or it could be a potential where you're running stuff you really don't need to run.
Yeah, that's often the case. And again, we find this evident through the corporate standards, right? And the corporate, or rather the industry standards, right? And you can get the industry standards by looking at the McKinsey reports, by looking at the reports from Gartner, looking at the reports from Deloitte, right? But so many organizations have X amount, 18% of their applications that they have and the software that they're running, they don't need to run, right? Because two different departments decided they wanted competing software, and only one of those departments, they both got it, right?
Yeah.
But they could have gone in together, shared the same thing, reduced their overall, software cost.
Yep. And it's about having that foundation. Otherwise, that'll continue happening, right? If you don't have a good way to identify that.
Correct.
Perfect. Now, there was something I found on your website I found extremely interesting. You have a self-assessment for costs, asset costs. Can you?
Yeah, I can break that down.
Yeah, break that down for us.
So the way that works, right? This is a Varex Solutions technical debt calculator.
Technical debt calculator. Okay.
Yes. And so when we talk about technical debt, right? Technical debt happens as organizations grow and they don't look back at their processes to understand what their processes are actually costing them. The processes that worked for an organization that was a $1 million organization or $10 million organization don't work any longer when they become a $100 million or $1 billion organization. And so as a result, technical debt accumulates. We used the industry standard data to develop algorithms to say, if based on what your current technical footprint looks like, this is where you most likely have the most technical debt. And as a result, I've been able to uncover tens of millions of dollars in technical debt for organizations that they didn't know that they were leaking, right? And the way that this works, we can do this two different ways. It's a free assessment, right? So we do it at zero cost. It takes about 45 minutes to get through. And you can actually go to the website yourself, www.varex.solutions. There's no .com.
No .com, just .solutions.
Just varex.solutions, right? Click on the top ribbon, get your free technical debt estimate, and then you actually fill out all of the questions. And once you fill out all the questions, that actually integrates into our Power BI backend.
Yeah.
And then automatically generates that report.
Very nice.
When it generates that report, once it generates that report, I actually get a copy of the report.
Yeah.
And then I validate all of the information. Once I confirm all of the information is correct and that all of the equations are working correctly and that nothing has gone out of sync, then I send that to the organization that inquired about it.
Okay. Then what type of pieces are on there that are a good start to look at?
So, for example, how many applications do you have, right?
You're talking everything from 365 to...
Correct, to Adobe.
Adobe, yeah.
Yeah, to, and then, like how many different pieces of licensed software do you have?
Gotcha.
Right?
And you're talking all licenses, not just subscription models. You're talking...
Correct.
Hard licenses as well.
Yes. So hard licenses usually come in under application portfolio, And then individual licenses come under software asset management.
Yeah.
And so we look at both sides of that, and we actually have each one has a guide to tell you exactly what we're looking for this particular question. And that's some of the information that I validate when I come in and make sure that the information is correct, is also making sure that the information that was entered was the right information, so that it's generating the correct and accurate values.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And so, for example, you can experience between 200 to 800% return on investment, and it tells you exactly what you would have to spend, where you would have to spend it, what initiatives you would have to run, and then what you can expect to see as a return from those initiatives. So it'll say, spend $1 million here doing this, you'll recover $6 million doing this at a 500% ROI, and you'll no longer have that incurred expense.
So the big question is, why give that away for free?
Because I want to show organizations that we can do as much for them as possible, as quickly as possible, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's a lot of value packed into this assessment, but the reason that we give it away for free is because this is what we can do in 45 minutes, right? If we can do this in 45 minutes, then you're going to want to let us show you what we can do with an actual full ITSM Enterprise Service Management assessment.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, Jason, anything I missed that you want to kind of tell the viewers about, or anything that anything we kind of glanced over that you want to go a little more in depth into?
You know, I think that we've covered it pretty well.
Wonderful.
You know, ultimately, you know, what's important is that, you know, why I got into this is I got into this because I realized that working for a single organization, I wasn't able to have the amount of impact that I wanted in the industry.
Right.
Right. Being tied to a single organization, I can only help that organization. I formed Varex Solutions because I want to be able to help as many organizations as possible. And I know that there's a lot of people out there that need help. I know that there's a lot of sinking ships out there.
Yeah.
That we can help, you know, clear the water, patch the holes, fix the bilge pumps, and get them sailing in the right direction.
Well, even new IT directors that are coming in and kind of looking around going, geez, where do I start?
Well, where do I begin? I can literally give you a roadmap and make you look like a superstar.
That's perfect. That's perfect. Well, thank you, Jason. Appreciate it. Cheers.
Thanks for having me.
No problem. Where can everyone find you?
You can find me at www.varex.solutions.
Sounds good. And I'm Mike Durante. This was Bourbon with the Boss. Thank you, and see you next time.